Well, welcome back to the Simon and Cars YouTube channel. I haven't done this in a little while. As you can probably tell, I moved. We're in a slightly different garage. It's way bigger, but E46 is still here. The Hibby's behind you off camera. But I wanted to get back into this. I mean, I still work on my cars, still do fun projects, so might as well bring you guys along for it. I have another track day coming up, and there are a couple crucial mods this car needs before we go back to the track again. This is something I'm very excited about. I've got some custom parts, some stuff I 3D printed. We're gonna make something happen here. I've got some parts from other cars, a kit that I got a little bit of from a parts car. So we're gonna see what we can piece together and hopefully cool the brakes on this car a little better. But without any more talking about it, let's jump right into the project. On this pallet, I believe I have everything we need to install brake ducting on my E46. For starters, I have dust shields from a B5 that I had laying around. These came off a car that had a Stop Tech kit. They already have the hose mounts, but they're a different size, so I'll have to figure out how I want to adapt that. I have some ducts that'll fit right up to the M-Tech 2 kit that's on my car. They're 3D printed out of ABS. These will allow us to transfer air from the front of the car to the brakes themselves, and they're a 3-inch outlet which mounts up with my hose. I also have some metal zip ties, regular zip ties, P-clamps, a hardware bin, and some riv nuts, and hopefully we'll be able to figure something out with what we have here. So upon sitting down and looking at my proposed dust shields to what's on here, there's such a large gap with the E46 dust shield that I don't think there's going to be anywhere for me to mount this that close to the rotor, just based on the way this sits. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over and order some E46 specific ones, so we won't be making anything custom out of these, and then I'll be right back. Alright, for you, that was only a second. For me, it's about a week later. I have these from Dimmer World. They have a 3-inch outlet, and they bolt right up to the non-M E46 knuckle. But first things first, I gotta take this dust shield off. So, actually, let's mock up the hose first. Alright, we have a bit of a mock-up that's just crudely held in with zip ties right now. I think I'm going to rivet this to the bumper itself, and then every time I take the bumper off, I'll just have to undo the hose clamp. Not the end of the world. But here we have it. So our feed to the actual brakes themselves will sit like here. So we'll definitely have some extra hose. I have another one of these, so I bought 2. But that gives us an idea. Our routing is going to be a little snug. I've kind of been told to look at brake duct hosing as it's almost a wear item. Like you're gonna rub through it eventually. So why don't we go ahead, take this dust shield off, and then see how our plate mounts up to cut the hose to length and get it all situated. This is ridiculous. We'll use some of that YouTuber magic.
1 hour later.
Is there any better feeling? So evidently the last time I had the brakes off, I decided to strip out this rotor screw and then leave myself a little surprise. So that was a unforeseen consequence taking those apart. So much for YouTube magic, but at least we can get the dust shield off now because the hardware is way easier to get to, just like so. So let's get the last one out and get this dust shield off. You gotta be joking. I have to either cut this or pull the hub off. Now, we can mock up our new dust shield, which mounts right like this with a standoff bolt up here at the top. There we have it, new ducted dust shield on, and then we can pop our hose on like this and get an idea of what it's gonna look like when we're done. All the way in through the bumper, round through the hose, out into the brakes. Hopefully help them stay nice and cool. So now we have to finalize our mounting for the scoop so that it is a hard point to route our hose to, and then we're gonna figure out our hose length and where to mount it. So with the bumper off, we have not quite a perfect fit. It's damn good, but it's not quite perfect. So I'm thinking is I'm gonna keep using this on and off, and I'm gonna trim some of this plastic around the edge back until we get a better seal. And then I'm going to silicone or plastic weld this duct to the bumper so that it's all kind of one piece. And then we just have our hard point for our hose above the splitter, through the bumper, over to our brakes. So the fit up wasn't quite what I hoped, so I had to get a little creative, but I had the scoop riveted to the bumper. I could pick the whole bumper up with it. So I think we're good there. All it's got to do is like roughly hold it in place. So now I'm going to put the bumper back on and we'll mock up the hose. Okay, so I started mocking this up, but before I did that, I went ahead and Loctited all 3 of the bolts. And I just need to paint mark them so I know that they're tight every time I come in here to check it. But I figure we should put the brakes back on and the wheel on, and then kind of turn the wheel to get an idea of how much space we have. So I know this hose is way too long currently, but I think this is vaguely how we want to route it. Off of the scoop, tie it somewhere so it's not trying to bend the scoop every time we twist the wheel, and then get like a pivot point where we can hold on to it. But then it allows the hose to move in and out without putting much of a load on our 3D printed scoop. So that's at least my general idea, but for now I'm going to go ahead and throw the brakes and the wheel back on, and then we'll see how much room we have as the wheel turns. Okay, it's been probably an hour. I've been messing with this, tried a couple different setups. This is what I have that works best so far. I have off of our duct, I have it squished to be more of an oval here, tied with a zip tie to a P-clamp in an existing hole there, then tied to a zip tie and a P-clamp in an existing hole here. The whole idea of this being that it's not super permanent, so like if this hose comes loose and gets snagged on something, it can, I assume that's the logic you'd want, is it to break free instead of getting wrapped in the wheel and something like that. So, but then I have it ducted to our duct here. I have some duct tape on it right now between where it hits the knuckle when I turn the wheel, just to kind of give me an easier thing to keep track of its wearing, because if it's going to wear through there super quickly, I'll want to change that. But for now, it seems pretty happy, so I'm going to put the wheel back on. I've got just the rotor held on with some lug nuts right now, but I'm going to put the wheel back on and we'll get underneath and we'll pivot it back and forth and see if we clear there and if we have enough extension for full lock to the right. Okay, we're now under the car. This is the wheel mostly straight. If I bring it in, oh, it's going to be harder to push than I thought with one hand. I'll sit you on my chest. Basically at full lock, we just touch, which you're really not gonna be using full lock at the track. I don't know, I might squeeze, I could probably compress that down a tiny bit more right here, squeeze a little flatter, but then if we go out the other way, full lock, we're touching the spindle a little bit. Make sure we're locked. Okay, that's lock. Again, not really using full lock that much at the track, but again, it's not touching that much. Like it's touching, but it's not like it's super forcefully buried in there. Like it's just touching. I might put a little rubber cap on this bolt or something to prevent the threads from digging in. And then again, the duct tape's on here, so I can more easily tell if it's how much is rubbing when driving without actually wearing a hole in my hose. So if you have any suggestions on a different way to do this or a different way to route this, let me know in the comments. I know that I've seen some adapter plates that mount to the firewall, essentially are a flat piece like this that allow you to have a straight shot out. But again, I'm trying to do this DIY, so I tried to buy as little pre-made stuff as possible, keep the cost down, you know, budget race car and all. So this is where we are right now. Now we get to plug the smoke machine in and test it and see what it does. All right, I've got my smoke machine wedged into the duct. Let's turn the smoker on and see what happens. There we go, we're starting to get some smoke. I don't know if spinning it does anything. Seems not, but there we go. That's cool. It's obviously most concentrated on the side where our duct is, but we are getting smoke out of the bottom. Yep, all coming out of the rotor. That's super cool. So I'll get you a better angle. Yep, all coming out of the fins of the rotor right here. That's cool to be able to see it. Like you can see it churning out of the, coming out of the fins of the rotor right there as it goes past the duct. That's super cool. All right, I'm gonna shut that off before it smokes with the garage. Just like that, we have our finalized brake ducting to help keep my brakes cool. It's very cool to be able to see it actually fan out of the fins of the rotor so you can see that it's working, which is cool. And again, all I had was, I have a smoke tester like you would use to find vacuum leaks, just shoved up into the vent. But it's gonna be so cool to have finished ducts. I still have to do this side, but this will complement nicely the radiator ducting I made. I just have solid pieces that sit on either side. There's a little piece that bolts in under here into these nut certs you can see in there and there. And that make sure the air going through the vent goes up into my radiator. So that is essentially my front end fully ducted. Next in terms of airflow is probably heat extraction vents in the hood, and then some fender exits on the sides to help air get out of the wheel well. And then I eventually need to remake my splitter. It's not big enough, but that's a problem for another day. But then that would be my front end with full aero and ducting and whatever, full airflow. So I appreciate every one of you that made it this far, supporting me by watching the whole video. I appreciate it. Remember to follow me on Instagram. I post there more often, or Facebook if that's your cup of tea. But I have a track day coming up. I've got some future projects planned with the new house and with some of the other cars. So there's one outside you haven't seen yet that I'm excited about. And we got some content coming for that soon. But for now, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.